Good evening and welcome to this special evening celebrating the 200th anniversary of the great Jewish liturgical composer Louis Lewandowski. I am Rabbi David Fine from Temple Israel in Ridgewood, and you'll be hearing very soon from Cantor Josh Finkel from Congregation Bet Chaverim Shir Shalom in Mawa with the accompaniment of Dr. Ralph Selig on the organ from Hebrew Tabernacle Synagogue in New York. In Berlin, at the large cemetery, the Weissensee Cemetery, when you walk into the cemetery, there is a row of stones at the very beginning that's called the honor row for the most important members of the community who sort of have the front row seats as you enter the cemetery. And one of the stones in that row has a treble clef inscribed on the front of it. And next to that symbol, the symbol of music, is the name Louis Lewandowski, who was one of the most influential and important composers of Jewish music. He is not only one of the most well-known names, but also whose product, whose music, whose songs are sung in synagogues by people who have never heard of his name, but his music lives on. Now, I said he would have been 200 years old today, although this is, as one might expect as scholars discuss things, a matter of scholarly dispute. There are some that say that actually he was born in 1823, not 1821. There's a theory that he may have lied a little bit on an early job application when he was a young musician to get a job a few years earlier than perhaps he should have. So he may only be 198 years old today instead of 200, but a 198-year-old Jewish composer is just as deserving of our appreciation today. I want to read you a passage that he wrote in a famous piece. It was written as when the Oranienburger Strasse synagogue which is the main synagogue in Berlin. It had seats for over 3,000 people. It's the Gold Dome in the eastern part of Berlin. Some of you may know if you've been to Berlin, just the facade has been reconstructed. The building was destroyed and fell apart in the early 50s. It was the synagogue, for example, where Albert Einstein sat outside during Yom Kippur services, but where he would have attended. And at that synagogue, they had an organ, and there was a debate in the community over whether they should employ the organ, use the organ for services. And Lewandowski wrote, and this goes back to actually 1862. The synagogue was opened in 66. The claim has been made on the subject of the introduction of the organ in Jewish worship service that the organ cannot be brought into harmony with the peculiarities of ancient Jewish style of singing. Such reservations, however, are based on a complete misunderstanding of the instrument, together with a lack of any musical understanding. The organ, in its magnificent sublimity and multiplicity, is capable of any nuance, and bringing it together with the old style of singing will inevitably have a marvelous effect. The necessity and the almost immeasurably vast space of the new synagogue of providing leadership through instruments to the choir, and most particularly to the congregation, imposes itself on me so imperatively that I hardly think it possible to have a service in keeping with the times in this space without this leadership. There was a huge debate among German Jewry over the use of the organ in worship services. Lewandowski did not address the halachic issues. He did not address the cultural issues. He looked at it simply as a musician, that this will help us sing, and it'll help fill the grand space that we were in. We've occasionally used the organ here at Temple Israel with Dr. Selig, and some people said, well, the organ it's a Christian music, it doesn't sound Jewish. I say, listen to the music that Louis Lewandowski composed. You know this music in your neshama. We all do. This is how it was written. This is how it was meant to be. But Lewandowski's music, of course, we know it whether it's with organ or not. It is sung and heard and fills so many different kinds of Jewish space. I want to conclude with the summary words of the great historian of modern Judaism, Michael Meyer, in his assessment of Louis Lewandowski. Says he was the choir master who incorporated German folk tunes into the music to hold on to the character and peculiarity of old melodic modes and ennoble them by harmonization. And he took these sounds, this romantic sound, and he applied that to the traditional words and modes of Jewish worship. He combined the situation where the people lived with the heritage and the heartstrings of the past. As Michael Meyer writes, the ornate romantic style which Lewandowski developed complemented well the rich adornments of the new synagogue, which is the great synagogue in Berlin that I mentioned. Since he composed for congregational song as well as multi-voice choir, for synagogues with organ and for those without, Lewandowski's compositions soon became the standard in Germany and spread rapidly to German immigrant synagogues in America as well. And that heritage continues to be heard, continues to live on through the American synagogue. What's special about tonight is that we'll hear the original sound, how it was written, and hear it continue to reverberate among us. Cantor Finkel.
Thank you, Rabbi Fine. Hayom harat olam, hayom yamid b'mishpat, ko yetzurei olamim, im kevanim, im kavodim, im kevanim rachamenu, kerachem av albonim, im kavodim eneinu, lecha tiluyot ad shetchaneinu, ותוציא האור משפוטנו היום קדוש. Again, Mateno, Verser me'alenu, Oyev tever v'cherev, thereof v'yagon, v'aser Satan milfaneinu, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו אתה, כי אל מלך חנון ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו, לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. Torat Adonai temimo, edut Adonai פיקודי אדוני ישרים, מצוות אדוני בוערה.
Our next selection, many of you will recognize from the Friday evening service, Tzadik Katamar Yifrach. It's from the end of the Kabbalat Shabbat. So, and it is the words, just that one phrase, the righteous shall blossom like the date palm. It's from the psalm that is chosen, as the tradition tells us, for the Levites sang on the Sabbath day in the temple. It's not about the Shabbat, but about that bursting forth, the natural beauty of righteousness is that sense of higher level of living, that palace in space that we experience, that we can experience the Shabbat to be. It is a feeling that we strive to feel as we bring in Shabbat and Friday evenings. And that psalm is placed in the liturgy right after the Kabbalat Shabbat, right after the Lecha Dodi, right after we rise to welcome in the presence of Shabbat into the room. So it is the first moment of feeling that sacredness in the air. And for me, week after week, it does not fail as we sing this melody that Lewandowski wrote. It elevates me, and I feel myself in a space, in this sacred space, but also connected to all of the sacred spaces where our people come to welcome in the sacred time through these notes. Cantor Finkel.
I never know if I should say Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, or Good Yontiv. I'm Dr. Ralph Seelig. I'm professor of mathematics and computer science at Fairleigh Dickinson, but I also have a very good colleague, Rabbi David Fine, where we share our teaching at the Abraham Geiger College in Berlin. My job is to train and work with rabbis and cantors so we can preserve this tradition. The question is, since 1894, Louis Lewandowski's been dead. And the question is, why is his music still done today? How is it preserved? Why was it preserved? Well, it's a very simple answer. Louis Lewandowski was the champion of Chazonis. Solomon Sulzer was the pioneer. Sulzer started most of this in 1838. Lewandowski, of course, was in the Oranienburger Straße in 1866. He was probably one of the few composers that was not a cantor. He was actually a musician who was hired by the Jüdische Gemeinde, the German community of Berlin, to modify the music of Abraham Lichtenstein. And over the course of time, he certainly did this. Now, what was interesting was when Liechtenstein passed away, the question was who was going to take over? And there were a lot of people in the running. One of the candidates was Emanuel Kirchner. Another one was Edward Birnbaum. But these were all very, very, very good cantors. And Lewandowski wanted nothing to do with this. He wanted his music preserved. So he took a cantor by the name of Aaron Friedman. And in 1883 till 1923, Aaron Friedman was the cantor in the Hauptsynagoge, Oranienburger Straße. And of course, that music was done pretty much till the war. You see, Lewandowski had a deal with Aaron Friedman, and that deal was very simple. You want the job, you do my music. So it was very interesting how this was preserved in many, many ways. Of course, after the war, a lot of this music migrated here to America because the music was traditionally done throughout Germany of Lewandowski, even though it was waning away from a certain point. There's so much we can say about all of this, but we really want the music to speak tonight. The only other composer we're doing tonight, because we just did the Lewandowski Tzadikat Tamar, is a short piece, also Tzadikat Tamar, by Emanuel Kirchner, just to give you an idea how good Emanuel Kirchner was with regard to Lewandowski. And Kirchner, of course, went to Munich. His music was done, and his music is still done today in Bet Shalom, which is the liberal synagogue in Munich.
Tzadikat Tamar, Yifrach ke'eres Lebanon, Yizkeh shetolim beveit Adonai bechatzorot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od Yehuvon besevo neshenim verananim yehu lehagid ki yashar Adonai Suri, Suri, velov loto. Yitkadol, Yitkadosh, Shemei Rabo. Be'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayechon ואימרו אמן. ישמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמייך יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה. בריחו לעילה ולעילה מן כל ברכתו ושירתו תושבחתו ונחמתו תמירן בעמו מעלמו ואימרו אמן. פתח לנו שער בית נעילת שער כי פניום. פתח לנו שער בית נעילת שער כי פניום. השמש יבוא ויפנה נבוא שיערך. היום יפנה השמש יבוא ויפנה נבוא שיערך. Selachna, Michana, Chamana, Rachemna, Kapena, Kivash Cheveovon. Ana Elna, Sana, Slagna, Michana, Chamona, Rachemna, Kapena, Kivash Cheveovon. ידבדיך הנביאים כתוב לאמור הלוך Adonai, Sacharti loch, Chesed ne'uraich, Ahavot, Kilulatayich, Ektech, Achrei b'midbar, Eretz lo seruah, v'ne'emor, v'zacharti ani et brit otach mimen uraich, v'hakimoti lach merit olam. V'ne'emor, Haven Yakili Ephraim Im Yered Shashuim Ki midet abribo Zachar et kirenu od al ken hamu me'aylu Rachem Rachmenu Rachem Rachmenu Ne'um Adonai Ne'um Adonai. Tzidkata Livnevonim, vetzit kata, livnevonim, vetzit kata, livnevonim.
Thank you, Cantor Fingal and Dr. Selig, and all of you for helping to fill this space and our hearts with the music of Louis Lewandowski. If it is true that he fudged a early job application and is actually only 198 years old, then we should agree to do this again 2 years from now, celebrate his 200 years again together in person with each other. We'll be concluding with Enkelohenu.
Enkelohenu, enkadonenu, enkemalkenu, enkemoshienu, Michelohenu, Michadonenu, Michemalkenu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Emakenu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.